Okay, I want you to imagine, just for a second, completely stepping away from the daily grind. No bills to pay, no bosses breathing down your neck, no strict schedules, and absolutely no keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, it sounds like this pure, utopian fantasy, doesn't it? But what if I told you there's a community built entirely around this radical premise? Could you actually live a life with zero rules, no personal money, and basically no personal property? Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating blueprint for exactly this kind of existence.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a deeply intriguing source text called the Three-Character Primer. This was written by Xu Feng, and it serves as the foundational philosophy for a community known as the New Oasis for Life, or the Second Home. We're going to break down exactly how this community operates, looking straight at their own stated principles, which are based on three core characters: simple, economical, and firm.
All right, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at four distinct parts. First up is radical simplicity. Second, strict economy. Third, solid firmness. And finally, the ultimate goal.
Starting off with part 1, radical simplicity, living without rules. So the very first character of their primer is simple, and it completely redefines how a community maintains order. This whole philosophy heavily roots itself in historical and spiritual wisdom. For example, they looked at Gandhi's idea that simplicity is the essence of the universe, arguing that the most perfect things out there naturally take simplicity as their core. They also cite the ancient master strategist, Zhu Liang. He taught that a simple life helps you retain a crystal-clear consciousness of your goals. The idea is, by keeping a calm mind, completely unbothered by chasing fame or fortune, you can reach a much further destination. They essentially believe that the greater the simplicity, the better the order, the higher the efficiency, and ultimately the larger the happiness.
Now, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it manifests as something they call holographic management. Just picture your town or your workplace running on this system. There's zero leadership structure, no accountants, no tellers tracking every penny. Instead, the community just places allowance money in a public space. If a resident needs money, they just walk up and take what they need. No applications, no expense reports. The entire system relies on this profound, inherent trust rather than any sort of bureaucratic oversight.
Which brings us to the specific mechanics of their daily life, outlined in what they call the 8 aspects of simplicity. And paradoxically, they achieve order by just completely eliminating traditional rules. All actions in the second home are 100% voluntary. There are no enforced regulations or commandments whatsoever. Imagine this: almost all meetings are canceled. They only hold one weekly meeting on Fridays. On top of that, there are no assigned tasks or supervision. You decide for yourself what to do, how to do it, and how well it gets done. Their only real overarching requirements are just basic civility, education, and culture.
And you can see how brilliantly this simplicity penetrates their social lives too. To avoid the complexities and endless obligations of modern society, residents literally don't celebrate birthdays or observe festivals. They don't exchange gifts or souvenirs at all. This ensures that nobody ever owes anyone else anything. They're explicitly avoiding those mutual aid relations based on profit or interest. Basically, except for specific collective needs like learning or entertainment, traditional ceremonies are just gone. Daily life is entirely communal. Everyone shares their meals in a central dining hall and hops on the internet in a shared computer room. So the absolutely crucial point here is how this mindset affects personal property. In the second home, personal ownership is strictly minimized to a very specific set of numbers. A resident gets exactly one bedroom. Inside, one bed, one desk, one chair, and one cabinet. And as for your wardrobe, you are permitted exactly 3 pairs of shoes and 3 suits of clothes. I mean, take a second and think about how many pairs of shoes are sitting in your own closet right now. Here, 3 is it. Everything else in the community is shared. It's really the ultimate physical manifestation of stripping away excess just to maintain a clear mind. Moving on to part 2, strict economy, rejecting extravagance. This strict economy is guided by the ancient philosopher Lao Tzu's principle of not too much. The source text draws a super sharp contrast here. It notes that while the outside world tends to take pride in extravagance, the second home views economy and simplicity as the absolute highest virtue. They operate on the staunch belief that economy leads directly to success, while extravagance, that is a guaranteed path to failure. Because of this, the community strictly prohibits wasteful behavior and buying any kind of luxury items. So instead of luxury, they embrace pure practicality. The primer beautifully illustrates this mindset. It states that if your tableware is clean, simple pottery is actually way better than utensils made of gold and jade. If food is delicate and prepared well, simple garden vegetables easily beat dainty, expensive food. The real core of this economy is a deep, deep respect for labor and resources.
The text actually urges residents to stop and think about how difficult it is to grow every single grain of food they eat and to reflect on the hard work woven into every single inch of silk they wear.
All right, part 3, solid firmness, consolidating the root. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does a group of people maintain this level of radical simplicity without the whole thing just falling apart? Well, the answer is intense internal discipline, or what they call consolidating the root. The community cultivates this through 3 specific steps. First, residents have to build firm belief, solid cultivation, and profound skills with a really strong sense of integrity. Second, whenever they set their mind to a task, and remember, tasks aren't assigned here, they must strive for the absolute best. There's this strict internal expectation. You do not give up halfway. You don't let others have a negative opinion of your work, and you are never, ever perfunctory. Third, they must remain fiercely practical and down to earth. And this firmness, it isn't just about how you chop wood or how you write code. It extends to the very micro expressions on a person's face. The text actually demands that residents don't engage in flaunty behavior or mere lip service. Instead, it requires absolute honesty and sincerity in every word, every action, every movement, even in the knitting of the brows and a smile. So the discipline of the second home literally permeates a resident's entire physical and mental being. Which brings us to part 4, the ultimate goal, achieving nirvana. So why go through all of this? Why abandon your personal property and police your very smiles? The payoff is deeply spiritual, drawing directly from the Buddhist Heart Sutra. By stripping away all those complexities of modern life, the community believes you progress through these 4 profound stages. First, because you own almost nothing, and you owe absolutely nothing, you have no concern and worry. Second, without that concern, you have no fear. Third, this incredible peace allows you to distance from terrible dreams. And fourth, by strictly following this path, the resident will eventually achieve nirvana, which is the ultimate state of liberation and peace. So, through this source material, we've explored a community that basically looks at modern societal rules and extravagance as the main barriers to true happiness. By embracing this radical simplicity, strict economy, and solid firmness, they are aiming for a life completely free of worry, fear, and conflict. It's a massive, massive departure from how most of the world operates today. And honestly, it kind of forces us to look at our own closets, our own calendars, and our own bank accounts and ask ourselves a pretty tough question. If stripping away everything you own and ditching all the rules of modern society guaranteed you absolute peace, would you take the leap? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you something really fascinating to think about today.